Welcome everyone, this is Wrath, and today we're going through a new event quest, Enter the Cabal. We're going to be going through Eyes of Asgard, the fourth map in the sequence. This is map 2 of chapter 2. What you're going to see on the left is the path that's going to have no additional nodes. That'll be the easier of the paths on this map. Across the teleport to the left is the counter tactics path, which means increased base attack damage as your combo meter goes up, so more chip damage. And to the right is Masochism, which is going to be probably the more difficult of the nodes. For this one, every 7 seconds, you can basically have one of your debuffs applied to your opponent, such as bleed or stun, dropped, and they'll regenerate 5% of their health. It's not a huge deal in terms of damage output if you have max 4 stars. The problem is if you're used to parrying, that parry can drop. To show you that it's not a big deal with 4 stars, I'm going to be using a 4-star team here. You can either use bleed, poison, and your despair route to reduce that regeneration, but honestly that's not even necessary. The big thing to note here is that if you try to parry, and there's not a gray cooldown timer in the upper right, that means that your stun will drop. You saw there at the beginning, I went in for that parry. The parry happened, but the stun dropped. If you try to attack right away, you're going to take a massive amount of damage from a combo from your opponent. So the big thing for this fight is to not take damage, to really make it a long drawn-out fight. Now I'm using magic here because I don't like trying to dodge Venom's second super, so I'm just keeping him at 0 energy the entire fight. Now you can use any other bait strategy to bait out his first super, which is extremely dodgeable. He basically just shoots some webs and attacks you with them, and you can basically dash backwards to get out of that. I would suggest baiting the first super or using a power controller to basically knock down his power gain and keep him below 1. But as you see there, even with him regenerating constantly, I'm not even using despair because magic doesn't put on additional debuffs. It doesn't really matter for that regeneration because you're dealing more damage than that 5% anyways, and he only gets it every 7 seconds. So just make sure that when you're doing that, if you do go for the stun and he has Masochism activated, he will drop that stun. Just do not get hit by that combo. Alright, so here's Thor Ragnarok, and if you look here, Boon of the Gods, basically when you're striking him, there'll be a countdown timer for Thor Ragnarok in the upper right, and that when it gets to 20 is going to activate a power gain where he will get full energy unless you knock him down with the super. So what you'll see in this fight is I'll be very careful to get him up to like 18 or 19, then get back in with a combo and immediately lose my super. So you're going to want to save your supers against Thor Ragnarok to make sure that you hit him right after you give him power gain. So you see here, strategy for him is going to be basically baiting his first and second super. His first super you just saw there ends with his shield into the ground, and you can dash in right afterwards. His second super is kind of a longer combo with him ending with his sword spinning. You'll see it later in the video. Again, you just saw right there, he got the power gain because he got the 20 Boon of Gods. But then I immediately used a super in my combo that gave him that 20th counter, so that way he would stop gaining power. Just make sure that he has been baited in terms of his first and second super before you give him that boon, because your timing for your super will basically give him more and more power. So if he is starting at 2, he's going to get his third super, and he is very damaging when he uses his third super because he'll continuously put shocks on you as you hit him. So again, the regeneration doesn't even matter, even though I'm using X23 here to kind of knock it down. X23 is a great choice for this because the additional bleeds will cause damage over time as well as reduce regeneration if you have despair. Additionally, it kills them a little bit quicker if you have assassination as well. I would recommend having assassination, deep wounds, and despair. It makes these fights go a lot faster, but it's definitely not necessary. Here's a good example of Masochism in terms of just making sure that when you parry, hold your guard to wait for either the end of the combo or a heavy attack. Each champion will have a different end combo hit, so kind of look into that. So right there you saw Captain America's was a kick, or he'll do a heavy attack, in which case you dodge backwards. I would recommend for people that are not particularly familiar with Captain America or have the timing a little bit off to use the first super bait strategy, because his second super has the throwing of the shield, which if you get hit by it, it's a massive amount of damage. It's better to just avoid it and just bait the first super. Don't worry about timing because you're not degenerating health. Don't try to rush in to get hits in while that Masochism is down. It really doesn't matter. This is going to be a long, drawn-out fight. especially if you don't have bleeders or poisoners, but it doesn't matter, you can get enough damage in. Even if you're just doing slightly more damage in the Masochism, just make it a long drawn out fight and get in there and just make sure that you're not getting hit at the end of a combo if you thought a parry was going to stick. That is going to be the biggest problem for a lot of people, is they're going to try to attack right after a parry when the parry was turned because of Masochism into regeneration, and they will take a massive amount of damage. So just be very careful with that. As you see here, I'm not even using my super, I'm just making sure that I'm doing damage over time and just getting that in there. The additional benefit of people like bleeders is that the bleed over time, if you're trying to apply that bleed with just basic attacks, then basically you're going to re-trigger the Masochism so you can continuously do your parry strategy. So that was it for Captain America, not particularly difficult. So far this path had Venom, had Thor Ragnarok, probably the most difficult, and then Captain America. Next is Elektra. For Elektra, I would recommend trying to bait the second super. And so how you're going to do that is you're going to use your super to push them towards the second super once they get beyond their first. And additionally, if you hold your guard at the end of your super use, then they're normally going to attack you rather than activate their super. And so then you can wait for the end of the combo and try to push them above the second super. You also can attack their shield if it's just a little bit more energy. If you do see that first super being used, you can dodge it. But again, this is a long drawn out fight. I would recommend, if you are not familiar with dodging this first super, don't worry about it, just take it on the shield. You can dodge the first part as it's just a normal attack, but then just take the throwing stars on the shield, as it's much better to just take that chip damage rather than trying to dodge it. Because again, you're just trying to get through these fights, you're not trying to be perfect about it. So again, you could dodge that first one, but honestly just take it on the shield if you're not familiar with it. Don't even worry about dodging it. The damage is not that severe. So again, you can use your supers to push it to the second. Elektra's second super is completely dodgeable because it's all melees, so it's very easy to handle. So right here you'll see the second one. Bait strategy again, when they're coming towards you, dash back at the very end. That kind of gets them to activate it. Also, you can attack their shield once and then dash back. You just saw though, second super, very easy to dodge. But overall, the thing you're noticing is that I'm really not even paying attention to the regeneration. The only thing I care about is making sure that I don't attack right after a parry if that parry gets converted into regeneration. So right now, if you go back a little bit when there was no gray timer, that means that the next debuff on them would cause a trigger and that cause regeneration rather than the debuff sticking. So overall, you can use anyone. So far, none of the strategies have been specific other than using a power controller on Venom. You don't have to though, so you really can bring in any champion you want so far. Now we're going against Iceman. You can use someone that's cold snap resistant in terms of like Sabretooth. I don't think it's necessary, but just make sure that you have someone that has enough health to get through that initial damage. So choose someone that's pretty high up in health. I chose Magic here because I didn't really want to deal with his first or second super, even though his second super is dodgeable, and so is his first. But I just wanted to power control him and keep him down. So again, what you'll see here though is that there's two timers. One timer was for Masochism, which is the shorter one. The second one is for his ice armor, so don't get tricked by those. Additionally, that means that your stun could drop if he has ice armor on, but doesn't have Masochism up. So the real trick here is just that most of your stuns are not going to stick, so don't be reliant upon them. So I would, in general, wait till after his combo to attack him, but you also can do the strategy where you would do a super, and then immediately after attack in, either get him on a guard or get him on a combo. So again, you'll see me throughout this fight, for the most part, just waiting for the end of his combos. His combos end with either the fist punch, or basically his little ice kick, where he'll dash forward. I can dash a little bit forward, but either one, you can just attack right off the combo. Make sure you dodge the heavy though, but you can take the end of a normal basic attack combo on your shield. So overall, again, it's going to be a long drawn out fight, but just make sure when you go into that fight, you make sure that your guy has enough health to survive it. So now, for Mephisto, the options are either bringing someone that's incineration immune. So that would be, for instance, I brought Iceman, because that's going to be the big thing. The other thing you could do is use a power controller, so someone like Vision, or you could use someone like Yondu. But I think the damage over time is going to be more important, so I would use someone that is incineration immune like Iceman. For this fight, I would just highly recommend bait the first super. Just continuously bait the first super. The thing with the first super, though, it has a lot longer range for Mephisto than you think it does. So if you did bait it when you dash backwards and you're far enough away where you can dash backwards again and get out of it, do that. And then you come back in after the bones come up. If, however, you are really close to him, take the fire blast on your shield because it's a lot longer than you think it is, and when you dexterity back, you're going to get hit by it. Especially if you have an incineration, a sensitive person, because you'll take the damage. So wind it back a little bit right there. You saw that I took it on the shield. Even though you take it on the shield, you can dodge backwards right after the fire attack, so that way you dodge the bone attack. Right when the last bones come up, dash forward. That allows you to hit him without any damage. So right here, right when the last bone comes up, dash in. And you'll notice right here, I'm never triggering Masochism because I'm not stunning him. Basically, I'm just doing enough damage with his power gain to get him just to his first super and then baiting it. This is going to be a very annoying, long, drawn-out fight. He's even going to regenerate once he gets those 3 markers. But honestly, this is the best way to do it if you have an incineration immune person. If you don't, you're going to have to try to deal a lot more damage over time to make sure that he dies or that you're burning out. But this strategy is very effective if you have Iceman or you have someone that's incineration immune, because you're basically just baiting the first super. You're not triggering Masochism because you're never giving him a debuff. And I wouldn't even use a super on this one, honestly. I would just basically attack, dash back, attack. When he has his first super, start baiting it. Again, strategies, attack his shield once, dash backwards, or wait for him to dash towards you and then dash back. The dash towards you, dash back strategy is good for him, because if you dash back once already, you're far enough away where you can just continuously dash back. And there's no reason why you just keep dashing back, honestly. Like, just dash back, hold yourself against the wall, and then as soon as that last bone comes up, dash in. So right here, I'm just continuously holding it, dash in right afterwards. Watch this timing so that make sure you don't get hit by it. But again, if you are not familiar at all with the first super, don't try to dodge the fire blast if you're really close. Just make sure that you take it on the shield and then dash backwards afterwards. So you're going to dash after the fire blast, before the bones, if you're not familiar and you're up close. If you're far away, just keep swiping backwards and you'll be fine. So again, this is going to be a very, very long drawn out fight. So just kind of get familiar with it and watch the timing. But again, what you'll see for all the Masochism drought, which is also seen in Act 5, Chapter 2, is you're just really trying to make the fight where you don't get hit. Because honestly, you can take the chip damage with maxed out 4 stars. It's not a big deal. You'll see that we haven't really taken that much damage over time throughout this entire map. The big thing is just not getting hit by an actual combo, because that hit from an actual combo is going to do significantly more than just chip damage. So right there, he wasn't quite at a first super, so I just continue to attack his shield, and then you got to his first super. So we're almost through this one. Again, very long, drawn-out fight. You can definitely use other strategies. I just think that if you're just trying to get through this, this is the best strategy. It doesn't take you that long. You can use your third super at the end, just trying to get that last bit of damage in if you want. But it just really avoids that Masochism problem. All right. So now, as Eyes of Asgard indicates, the last guy on this is Heimdall. So for Heimdall, he's a new champion, so make sure you read through his entire stats, and we'll take a look at them here shortly. Big thing is that when he gets True Strike, you cannot dexterity his stuff. So we'll look at the local node. So basically, he has Rage, which means the more damage you do, so you don't be doing a lot of damage to him, because he'll cap out and become unblockable. So try to use someone that uses a little bit less damage overall. He also regenerates based on your regeneration, so use someone that's not regenerating, and then his Fury and attacks do more damage. So what you'll see here is that he gets precision and he gets power gain based on previous fights, especially the power gain. Basically, if he has armor up and Fury markers, he'll gain more power at the beginning, so he'll have a power gain buff. His passive thing is that basically when he is being attacked or struck, then he is going to gain armor charges that can convert into an armor up. And then if he's striking or being blocked, he converts into a Fury buff. And then those will basically activate different abilities in his specials. And so you'll see here that basically he can have 5 maximum of buffs at the time in terms of converting them to full duration. True Strike is the big one. So here, whenever he activates special super, he's going to get a True Strike buff. And when he has True Strike, he cannot be dexteritied, and he can trigger mastery in terms of the parry mastery with projectiles, and he's a 25% chance to auto block. Special Attack 1 basically is very dodgeable, so we're going to deal with that one a lot. Special Attack 2 is unblockable if he has an armor up. So you are not going to want to give him Special Attack 2. The other thing that we didn't show, I didn't say already, but he starts with 2 bars of energy. So he is going to be using a second super off the bat. He will have True Strike, so you can't dexterity out of it. So I would recommend you do not dexterity this first super, because he will destroy you. So basically just going to take on the shield, which means you need to have enough health to survive it. So right here, he does a big wave attack. Do not dodge that. Take it on the shield. Now the fight becomes very long, but very simple. All you're going to do is parry, attack him until he gets his first super, and then bait the first super. That is the entire fight. So right here, his first super, he does a double sword slash down in terms of a spinning slash. You come in right afterwards. Because he has True Strike, he may auto block you, but that's fine. He's not going to parry you. So again, you're going to attack him, then you're going to block him immediately. So right here, double slash down, dash in, hit him a bunch, and then you're going to basically, you can use your super, deal more damage, doesn't really matter. But as long as you're not doing more than 2.5%, because then you give him additional Fury markers. This is good actually if you have 4 stars, because in general, unless you're not using someone that builds up Fury markers, you're not going to be doing a ton of damage, so you won't be getting to that 2.5% cap, which is great. So you'll see here that Iceman's a great choice because his attacks just don't do enough damage to Heimdall to do a 2.5% max. So again, every single time you're going to be baiting his first super. You're going to be using the dash back strategy, you're going to be using attack the shield dash back strategy, and then I would start baiting it immediately. So as soon as he gets to his first bar of super, because you do not want to be pushing to a second. So you want to have the additional room to be able to push him back if you need to. So start baiting right away. So right there, that was the attack the shield and dash back. You can do the dash back strategy. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you're not giving him his second super. And he will kind of replicate your abilities because of the local node. So again, double slash down, immediately jump in. He will probably auto block you with a 25% chance, but that True Strike goes away. And so what you just saw there is I didn't really know his heavy attack because this is basically the first time I fought him. So his heavy attack here has an additional sword swing. So go back and watch that to make sure you don't get hit by that heavy like I did. But that's kind of the only other big trick here is that his heavy has a longer duration to it and an additional attack, kind of similar to like Stark Infinity. But again, if you know what it looks like, you can dodge it. Again, though, he can auto block you, so be cognizant of that. But again, this seems like a horrible fight, but just in general, the key tips for this are: enter the fight with enough health that you'll survive that initial second super. Do not attack him. Basically just bait him until he activates that second super. When he activates that second super, you just take on the shield. Dodge back the first part so that we don't get hit by the initial attacks, but that wave attack, you're not going to be able to dodge. So take on the shield, you'll take a ton of damage, but that's fine. And from that point forward, you're going to basically block, stun him, attack, and then bait the first super. Right, we're going to do it right now. As you bait the first super, when he does his sword swings, he's going to swing down. You're basically just going to dodge backwards. When you see that second attack from the spinning sword attack, you dash immediately in. So right here, wait, dash in right then, attack him, and then immediately you can do some damage in terms of your super, but then immediately parry, and then continue to your combos until, again, he's at his first super. And again, I would highly recommend you dash back and start baiting early, basically right after he has 1 bar, then later, because if you give him that second super, you're going to take that massive damage again, and you're going to take some severe issues, especially if he has an armor up buff, because then he's going to be unblocked. So this seems ridiculously hard, but you can definitely do it. Just make it a long, drawn-out fight. Thank you, everyone. Please like and subscribe to this video. We're trying to build a nice community here. I hope this was helpful. We'll be making walkthroughs for all the maps and all the paths. Please comment below if you have any specific requests in terms of heroes to be used or shown through. Thanks.